Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you all for coming out to our candidates night. We've actually been doing this for over 35 years, so let's see. We will be taking questions on the table. There are cards and pens on the table. I hope this thing is working.
Turn it up a little bit.
You can't.
There you go.
There's a bit in the back, you can turn up the volume in the back and you can see a little bit of
This one doesn't have
the speaker.
Push it out.
I mean, I know I have a big mouth, but.
Louder.
Okay, on the tables are cards and pens for you to write down your questions, and one of the board members will come around and pick the question up and give it to the moderator for him to decide which questions will get read. I just want to make sure everybody understands that these are questions that pertain to our city and what you want to see within the city and the candidates. We are not going to take personal comments, personal attacks on anybody. We need to be professional about the whole issue. I want to thank a few people here. Brian Bear is going to be our timekeeper. And the way this works, thank you, Brian. And I'll get into that in a minute. Our moderator this year is Mr. Greg Ward. And I want to thank City TV for coming out and taping this for us. Thank you so much. So questions will be taken, as I said, from the audience, written questions. Our first group that will be up is going to be our at-large candidates. And the way it works is they will do a 2-minute opening statement. And then they will have questions will be asked, and they will have 3 minutes to answer each question. At the end, they will do a 2-minute closing statement. And then we'll have a short break, and then we'll go to the ward candidates. So that's how we've done it. And good luck to everyone. Thank you.
Okay, would like to invite our first panel up, please. Again, while they're coming up, I want to thank Nancy and the E&O organization for this opportunity to moderate the candidate forum. Nancy said it's been 35 years. I hope to do it some justice as we go forward. I think a good moderator is much like a good referee. I want to be kind of seen, but not heard much except for asking the questions. So I look forward to getting your questions. And you are all here to hear from our candidates. So as they get seated, we'll start with our first candidate, we'll start with Yanis with her opening statement when she gets situated. Thank you, and please pass your questions forward.
I was going to say for the candidates, I will have green light for the first minute and a half, and then yellow light for the last 30 seconds, and red light for the time is up.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. My name is Yanis Jackson Long, and I'm running for Lansing City Council at large. This is my second go-round, so I'm excited that I have the opportunity to do this once again. I am running to make things better for the people. I want to be a voice for the people, and I want to represent Lansing and the people of Lansing regardless of their race, gender, or socioeconomic status. I believe that everyone deserves a seat at the table, and I want to help make that happen. We've got gaps in our community that we need to bridge. I also would like to make that happen, but the only way that I can do that is with increased civic engagement. So, I stand here as a Lansing resident. I graduated from Lansing Sexton High School, Go Brick Reds. I currently work for the Ingham County Treasurer, Eric Schertzing, and the platform that I'm running on is addressing economic development, public safety, and environmental justice. So when I look at each area in regards to my platform, I like to look at the complete package in regards to economic development. not just building big buildings, but having consensus with the people, making sure that we remain transparent about the projects that are coming within Lansing, the ordinance and things that are passed, making sure that people are part of the political process. Also addressing things such as food deserts, and with public safety, making sure that our police and our community have the opportunity to build rapport and get to know each other better. And then in regards to environmental justice, making sure that we have the education to move forward, to hold ourselves accountable, and things like recycling and such. But I do hope that you'll look into my background and see that I am a dedicated person, and I hope that you will consider me on November 5th.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Patricia Spitzley. I am currently the Lansing City Council at large, and I am running for re-election. My mom came up here from Arkansas, single mom of 2 kids. She came here because my aunt told her that this auto factory was hiring people off the street. So she came up and she brought my sister and I. She went to and she got hired at then Oldsmobile. The problem was, and her first job was driving cars off the line. The problem was she couldn't drive. But she drove the cars off the line. Rumor has it there were a couple crunch cars that were left off by the wayside. But I share that story because I've been a Lansing resident for most of my life. My mother came here to make a life for me and my sister. She married my dad, and we're here. And I went to school here. I went to Central. I came back. I have a job that I could live anywhere, but I choose to live in Lansing. Choose to live in Lansing because my family's here, my church is here, and my community's here. I've been a longtime community servant. I've been on the Parks Board. I've been on the Airport Board. I decided to run initially for Lansing City Council because I believe that the way to affect change is to be a part of the process. Right now, we have a number of commissions and boards that are open and that we need folks to be a part of the process. So part of my presentation to you is to encourage you to go on our website and look for those opportunities. My platform is simple. I'll always be prepared. I'll always be honest with you. I'm here to be, whatever decisions that I make, I always look at the charter, what the charter says, what our ordinances say, and how it impacts the budget. With those things, you can't go wrong. I'm asking you for another 4 years to be on Lansing City Council. I've had a great run, and I hope to continue. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carol Wood. I'm a council member at large and have been serving you for the last 19 years. My cornerstone and the reason that I ran to begin with was to give neighborhoods a voice. And some people will say, well, what about economic development? What about jobs? What about infrastructure? All of those are impacted in our neighborhoods. Without stable neighborhoods, without residents in those neighborhoods, we're not going to be able to create and have jobs that will impact our economic development. When we look at our tax base and making sure that we have residents here, when we look at developers, I often tell the story, you don't see McDonald's building in the middle of a cornfield. That's because businesses come where people are. And the fact that we need to make sure that the revitalization, the stability of our neighborhoods are critical to the impact of what Lansing is. The neighborhoods are the heart of Lansing. Having grown up here and actually moving back on the very block that I grew up on has given me a better perspective of understanding and communicating and being involved with our community. Many of you that are sitting here are Eastsiders, and I could go on from the creation of Rainy Skateboard Park to the expansion of Sparrow to a number of things that you have dealt with in this community that I have stood alongside of you. Part of my platform is making sure that what we are doing is common sense, that we handle it with dignity, and that you have somebody that has a compassion for us and for our community. Your vote is my voice. Without your vote, I cannot be there. You have elected me for 5 terms, and I'm asking for a 6th term. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So let me know if you can't hear me. Our first question, and Carol, we'll start with you and work our way down. Our first question deals with, a general question around what do you believe is the most significant issue facing our city as we look at the near term?
Oh, sorry. Write
We'll
down
just
the
come-
question.
you'll
Write down
have
the
two-
question.
2 minutes to go. Carol, excuse me, before you go, we would just ask if you could turn off your cell phones and put them on silent as the candidates provide their answer. Thank you. Carol?
I think I addressed a little bit of it in my opening remarks and about the stability of our neighborhoods. That generates revenue, and right now when we look at our legacy costs that we're dealing with the city, that has a tremendous impact on where your tax dollars go and how we're able to deal with those services that we generate for you. Of course, big ticket items that we all talk about over and over again is our infrastructure, whether we're talking about our roads, our sidewalks, or whether we're talking about our combined sewer overflow project, which is something that we are mandated to take care of by the federal government. But we're not funded for that. You as taxpayers pay that. Every time you pay your water bill, there's a sewage fee on that is almost triple what your water bill is. You are paying for that combined sewer overflow project. And so those are some of the critical issues that we have facing us today. Thank you.
So what are some of the most critical issues? I have 3.
I think you have to put it close to your...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's technical. I get it. The first one is addressing our legacy debt. We have, this crushing debt that we have to pay for past responsibilities, our retirees for health and retiree benefits. Those are responsibilities, and we always talk about it. Those are for actions already taken. That's for work that our retirees have already done, and so we have a responsibility to fulfill those promises and those obligations. But it's taken a huge toll on our general fund. When it first started, there was 14% of our general fund was going to finance our long-term legacy costs. It is up to 28% of our general fund that goes for that. We've got to stop that increase, because what does that mean? That means 28% of our general fund is not being used in our neighborhoods. It's not being used to address our sidewalks. It's not being used to provide critical services for our residents of the city of Lansing. The second critical issue is diversifying our economy. I work for a trust that is the repository of property from when General Motors went bankrupt. Communities were decimated. We were one of the more luckier communities because we had a diverse economy. We have to have a diverse economy. We have to continue to bring in additional economic development sources. What that does is it increases our tax base, it brings money back into our general fund, and again, that's money that we can use to provide basic critical city services. The last thing I think is a priority for me next year is rental housing. I live on the south end in Ward 3. Whoop, whoop. So I give a shout out to Ward 3. So on my drive home, between my house and my parents' house, whichever way you drive, I can count 5 apartment buildings that have a red tag on one or more of their apartments. That is absolutely unacceptable. We just had a situation where we had worked with, a recalcitrant landlord for a couple years, and then at the 12th hour, he does the minimum amount to come into compliance. We have no way of recouping those costs that we expended on that issue. We have to be able to protect our residents who are in rental housing. We have to have a way to hold these landlords accountable and make sure that they know that the city of Lansing means business, and when we do an enforcement action against them, that they're going to pay. Unfortunately, for some of those, that's the only way they understand is a hit to the dollar. We have good landlords, and we don't want them to be lumped in with the bad landlords. Thank you.
I think one thing that stands out to me is the poverty level in Lansing. With something approximately 27% of the people in Lansing living at or below a poverty level, that concerns me. So that is something that I would want to address to help these people not be marginalized and feel like they can be productive members of society. We have to take care of our people. They're the engine of the city, and I agree that all these things that we talked about are very important. You know, Pat and Carol talked about the legacy cost, and those are very important as well. But I think we have to start with our people. We have to find out what are the barriers to entry. What are the things that people that are living in at or below poverty level, why are they, what's going on? Is it mental illness? Is it not them not having the skill set? We have to take care of our people and find ways to make this 27 some odd percent of productive members of society. Because the thing about economic development, it's the overarching issue is the well-being of the people. So it's not just buildings, it's not just food access, but it's a number of things to contribute to the well-being of our people. We have to address that. And I think the biggest thing for me is addressing poverty level, unemployment, and identifying barriers to entry for the people so they can be productive members of society.
Thank you. Patricia, this question will go to you first for your 2-minute response. So the question, I'll combine a couple questions here. It's really dealing with the costs and the revenue for the city. So the question really is, are there creative ways to increase revenue for the city, or do you see ways where we might have some ability to cut some costs for the city?
Well, I think there are both. You know, we on council, let me back up. The financial health team put forth, the financial health team put forth a number of recommendations for how we can address not only our legacy costs, but also to look for reductions of waste, look for waste in city government. One of them was to hire a chief strategy officer. Council worked, and we did that. The goal of this chief strategy officer is to, audit the departments, find waste, and report back. We know that there are going to be tough decisions ultimately to be made in order so that we can address our legacy costs and address our budget so that we can provide city services. The goal was to have that chief strategy officer look at our departments, lay out, where there could be savings, and then we could, have a discussion on where we would be cutting. As for revenue, I think there are a number of things where we have not taken it upon ourselves to go after to increase revenue. What we need to do, again, and I think that gets back to a review of our services in our departments, is look at, are we collecting, income tax, property tax, have we left things on the table that we need to bring in to increase our costs? We need to have a top-down review of our departments and our processes to see where we are and where we need to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson-Long.
I think there's a number of things that need to be addressed as far as legacy costs go. It's not something that happened overnight, so it's not going to be fixed overnight. I would say a number of things we could do is looking at cutting costs, reallocating funds, and another thing I think we could look at is regionalization, overlap, looking at what positions are absolutely vital within the city of Lansing, where can cuts be made and where can cuts not be made. But it's an issue that's going to take more than a year to resolve. It's going to take time because it took years to get to that point. But it is very important that the people that were promised these pensions and these payouts get this money. They've worked more than half of their lives to get this. So we have to find out a way to do it. It's not an overnight solution, but I believe working together, partnering and getting ideas as well from the public to see where we can how we can address these issues.
When we're talking about cost and revenues, one of the things that I have advocated for a number of years is the fact that we need to be working with our employees, the people doing the job. Oftentimes they are seeing redundancies out there. They are seeing opportunities where they think that costs could be cut, and we don't take a good advantage of that. Oftentimes recommendations will be made by employees, and by the time it gets to a department head, those ideas are not taken seriously. And many of those department heads have not been out on the street filling those potholes, or fixing those sidewalks, or picking up that trash, or going out with code compliance. So I think it's extremely important to engage the employees in that. I think it also comes down to the revenue part of that. We have had, over the years, we have had employees that have made a number of suggestions on how we could increase revenues, whether it is cross-training in certain areas, whether it is the fact that the city be the only collector of trash in our community versus having some of the private sector in here. They have come up with a number of great ideas with that. I think Pat also talked about our issues that we've been dealing with the chief strategy officer, which is extremely important, somebody with fresh eyes to take a look at those things. But we've also talked to our new treasurer that we have, and she's made it clear that there are taxes that are not being collected from developers, from people that are doing building projects inside the city of Lansing that are not paying their income taxes. Even though we have contracted with LEAP, which is responsible for checking on some of those things, apparently that's not happened, and we need to make sure that those things are happening out there. So I think those are some of the ways that we can look at cost and revenues with that.
All right, so Mrs. Jackson-Long, this question's for you, and this is related to our citizens who are facing homelessness. So what can the city do to help those citizens going forward?
I think we can look into programs where we meet people where they are. There are a lot of people in situations where they're homeless. We have resources in the city. We have job training programs, but they may not feel comfortable going there. They may not have had a shower in a couple days. So we have to meet them where they are. Going into the missions, bringing programs there, telling them about job training we have that's available, maybe partnering with organizations like Michigan Works and allowing them to come to the missions and homeless shelters and things and get people the training and the job skills that they need to help become productive members of society, as well as address mental illness. I think that's a big thing. A lot of people are on the street and they're scared. They feel like, you know, if they go get an evaluation or if they seek treatment, then they may get locked away. So I think that's a very important thing. We have to talk to people and see what's really going on with them. We have to go out and meet people where they are, because we do have resources in place, but we just have to connect with people and see how we can help them.
The homeless population that we have in the city of Lansing, even though our Human Relations Community Service Department, Triple J, as many of us know her, or Dr. Joan Jackson Johnson, has been working tirelessly to come up with additional programs and ways to meet some of the needs with the homeless. This is something that we all have to wrap our arms around. We have seen churches that have opened facilities that will allow for feeding stations, as well as the homeless to be able to wash and dry their clothes. I know Riddle School, I see Guillermo Lopez in the back from the school board, has a washer and dryer at the school that allows parents to come in that might not have those accesses. We do feeding programs that we give out food. Mental health, as Yanis has said, is critical issue that sometimes when we step back and we look at ways that we can create services, the police department, we had funded a mental health specialist that works for the police department. I think we need that same type of person working in Dr. Joan Jackson Johnson's office that is able to meet people again where they're at to try to look at those services. We realize community mental health is doing a great deal, but they're overwhelmed with the amount of issues that they're dealing with, and we have to look at this as a regional approach. This isn't just a Lansing issue. This is a regional issue. We have people standing on our street corners here, or whether they're in Clinton County or Ingham County or Eaton County. Those are our brothers and sisters, and we have to look at ways how we can help. And sometimes that help has to come from all of us working together, not just the fact that government is here with dollars and handing those out. And we have to make sure that those dollars are going where they're supposed to go, not to bureaucrats making sure that something happens. Those need to be actually going to where the people need them.
So I think one of the important things that I hope you guys have realized is that we pretty much agree on a lot of issues. It's always the how and how to implement it is where a lot of times the discussion goes. But I think everybody here wants what's best for the city and has ideas on how to make the city and make the world a better place. So I almost called you President. Carol. So Carol talked about Joan Jackson Johnson, who is an institution. I know she has touched everybody. And Yanis correctly talked about making sure that we're out where the people who need the help are. So I just kind of wanted to talk to you about a couple things that the City of Lansing funds. We have monthly food pantries that are in various areas of the city every month where anyone can come, sign up, and get fresh food and groceries. I volunteered. I know a number of other council people have volunteered. We have never turned anyone away who has come and wanted to get food from our food pantries. We have rental assistance also. If you fall on hard times and you get behind and you're in danger of being evicted, we have programs in the City of Lansing that will provide you with rental assistance to keep you and your family in your home. We also have emergency funding. You all remember the Life of Riley incident where we had a number of mobile homes that were in just horrible, horrible conditions where we were forced to close it down, and those people were left without anywhere to stay or anywhere to go. The City of Lansing, through our Human Relations and Community Services Department, put those folks up in hotels until we could get them placed. We also have a program where we give out diapers for women who have children who can't afford diapers, can't afford personal products. We also have a very large back-to-school program every year that serves thousands of children. Those are the programs that the City of Lansing has. How do we fund those programs? Again, it gets back to diversifying our economy, increasing our tax base so that we can provide these basic city services. I hate to keep going back to that, but it is critical. We want strong neighborhoods. We want public safety. We have to pay for it. How do we pay for it? We pay for it with an increased tax base. That's how we're going to get there. We're also members of the Tri-County Office on Aging. A number of council members, I for one, serve on the Tri-County Office on Aging, which is another resource that we work with. We also have, we're also the fiduciaries of a number of grants for regional type programs. We do regional programs currently on brownfields, on social services, and so red light, I have to move on.
Thank you. Carol, we'll start with you. And this question is Lansing getting enough energy from renewable sources? If not, what more can be done in this space?
I would say no, we're not getting enough energy from renewable sources. Currently, what we do is buy credits from other people that are using renewable sources. One of the things that we continuously ask as developers are coming before council is whether they are doing renewable energy efficiencies in their developments. I think that is critical when we're looking at retrofitting older buildings. As some of you might know, we have an obsolete tax incentive program where a property that cannot be used for anything that's been deemed by the assessor unusable, those properties are reinvested, and if we are asking at that time that they bring those up to renewable energy efficient types of businesses, that makes a whole difference in the amount of energy that is being utilized in our community. Are there ways, right now, the former GM property, they are looking at doing some renewable energy work on that property. And I think we need to continue to look at how we can partner. Again, you're going to hear the word regionally again, but when we look at our space in our community to put up solar panels or to do wind turbines, what we need to do is be looking at communities that have more farmland that will allow us to do those types of things. So regional partnership, working, whether it's a matter of someone doing work in their own home and making sure that they're doing energy efficiency there. It's starting at the bottom, working to the top.
Lansing is not doing enough. That's clear. I think if anybody says we are, they're misinformed. But what I am not interested in, I'm not interested in buying credits. I'm not interested in gimmicks, you know, that so that we can tout that we're green when we're not. If we're not reducing our carbon footprint, actually reducing our carbon footprint, I am not interested in supporting something like that. I did not support the purchasing of the credits because it's not real. In my mind, it's a smokescreen. We do have to reduce our carbon footprint. We absolutely do. My oldest son has asthma, you know, and you know we have one of the largest polluters in the city of Lansing with the Board of Water and Light. And as a mom, when my son was younger, you know, and I can see the stacks from my house, and he's wheezing, and I'm in the shower with the hot water and the steam. You know, that's a very striking example of an issue that we have to reduce our carbon footprint. So how do we do that? You know, right now, council partnered with the administration to contract out someone to do an audit of our departments to look at ways that we can reduce our carbon footprint or implement green energy. I don't think that's enough. But it is a start, but it's not enough. I think that we need to work with the Lansing Board of Water and Light. We need to hold their feet to the fire. They have a renewable energy or a green plan. We need to hold their feet to the fire through whatever, you know, carrot stick program that we can put together to make sure that they are following that plan. We need to hold them accountable for that.
When we talk about renewable energy sources and clean energy, it's a process that's going to take some time because we've been operating this way for so long. But I think there are communities out there, we can take a page from their playbook, see what's worked well for them. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. How did they go about doing this? Who do they partner with? What organizations did they work with? Did they work with Clean Water Action? There are organizations dedicated to doing this very thing that we can partner with. You know, we can also, like two councilwomen said, partner with Board of Water and Light and those things, but we have to think outside the box and utilize experience and skill sets that are dedicated to these types of things So I would say taking advantage of the resources we already have surrounding us, the people that are knowledgeable about these subjects and have expertise in it, taking pages from the playbooks of other communities that are successfully transitioning over to these clean sources of energy.
Thank you. I'll give you a break. We'll start with you, Patricia. So this is about a sense of place. So really the question is around what are you passionate about in our city or most proud of? Or what are you really passionate about in our city?
I love our parks. I do. I absolutely love our parks. I was with Councilwoman Washington, and we did a cleanup of Bancroft Park about a month ago. And it's over by the Groesbeck Golf Course. What a gorgeous park. And I will say, I'd never been there. That was the first time I'd ever been there, and I could have, pitched a tent and not left. We have everything from, almost small, quaint neighborhood parks almost to the larger parks full of trails. That is a unique attraction for the city of Lansing that people love from young to old. You can age in place and take advantage of our parks. If you're a young family and you want to come out for a day, you can utilize our parks. Francis Park is gorgeous. The rose gardens are beautiful. Mount Hope Park, the new pavilion. I could talk about all the different parks. I was on the Parks Board, and I really did not understand, how lucky we were as a city of our green space. And so I'm passionate about our green space, and I am passionate about protecting that. Another thing I'm passionate about is our neighborhoods and our neighborhood organizations. Organizations like E&O, the Luton neighborhood organization, of which that's how I started and cut my teeth on public service. Those are really the heart of our community, and they provide so much information and so much services. Go to a neighborhood organization picnic park, or go to some sort of celebration that one of the neighborhood organizations have, and you really see the best that the city has to offer, the best of the people, the best of our communities. And so I'm passionate about our neighborhoods, and I'm passionate about our park system.
Carol?
It would be you. It would be the diversity that we have in this community. It would be the refugees that have taken their homes here and have decided to bring their families and to learn English here and to get jobs. It would be the seniors that have raised their families here and decided to stay here and to contribute to the community with being volunteers and mentors in our schools. It would be the young people that are starting out their careers here and are raising families. Without the population that we have in our community and the diversity that we have, we would not be Lansing. And so that's what I love about this community. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's what makes me want to be the council member that I am today. That's what drives me. It is you. It is the diversity among us, both ethnically, both generational wise. We are Lansing.
I am passionate about the people. I have met so many good people here. I have traveled the world and lived in many different cities, major cities. And I came back here. I learned a lot, met a lot of people, and I gained a lot of experience. And I decided to come back here. This is where I call home, and this is where I felt most comfortable. I've made some beautiful friendships, and I decided to devote my life to public service to make things better for the people. So that's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for everyone in this room because I think you all deserve it. I think, that there's so many wonderful things here, and so many people move here. The expertise, the things that I see just looking around this room is just very impressive to me. And I just look at this room and the diversity here, it's amazing. And so just thinking back when I was growing up, I didn't see this many, it was not this diverse, but to see how things have evolved. And we're not exactly where we want to be, but I know if we start working together and utilizing each other, connecting, and sharing resources, we can get to where we want to be. So that's why I'm really very passionate about this, and I'm passionate about the people, everybody in this room, everybody in the city, and beyond.
Thank you. Carol, we'll go to you first, and this question has to do with police and fire. And how would you, if you would, support an increase for police and fire officers?
That's a hard question, and the reason it's a hard question is it's a balancing act. We're not the federal government where we can print money, that we can have a billion and trillion dollar debt. Our budget has to balance at the end of each year when we pass that budget. And you, the voters, have supported millages that have allowed us to hire additional officers, both police and fire. One of the things I'm very proud about that I have worked for a number of years is called front loading. We are now doing that with both the police and the fire department. Front loading means as we look at the retirement roster and who is ready to retire, we work ahead of time to hire police officers, get them trained, get them through their schooling, have them go through the training program with other officers so that when that officer retires, there's someone there to take their place. The idea of having 23 and 30 positions open when you have reduced the, especially thinking of the police department, when you've reduced the police department from when I started on council by 100 patrol officers, we're down 100 patrol officers through attrition. Those are major issues. So it would be encouraging you again to support that millage. I think that we can continue to work with the Justice Department. We've received a number of grants through the federal government that has allowed us to bring on new officers and fill positions and again go through attrition. We have officers that are serving with us from the state police. We have patrol officers from the state police as well as 2 detectives that are working with us from the state police. So I think those are some of the ways that we can look at those. Again, I wish I could print the dollars to make it happen, but we can't. But we also have to look at how we can be inventive and making sure that those officers, whether police or fire, have the equipment, have the tools to be able to do their job. If they don't have those, with the limited number that we have, that's where we end up with problems.
So every year during the budget season, someone on council asks the police chief and the fire chief the same question. Do you have enough officers on staff right now to safely protect the city? Invariably, we have our police chief who's always very gracious and talks about what a great police force we have and that, we're responding, and we do have a great police force, don't get me wrong. And he's very gracious about that. But we know that there are not enough police out there. We know that. Carol has said we're down at least 100 police officers. And that does show, and that is critical. For our Lansing Fire, it's the same thing. We're down a number of firemen. We're down a number of paramedics and EMTs. And on a side note, my son just became a fireman at Delta Fire. He's a fireman EMT, and I'm very proud of him. One of the other things that we need to also look at as we're increasing our force is the diversity of our force. We need to have a force that looks like the people that they are protecting. And our Chief Yankowski and now Chief Green, Chief Yankowski did a wonderful job of recognizing that and putting steps in place to diversify his police force. Now, Chief Mackey, the fire chief, I've had a very long conversation with him, a great conversation with him, and he supports that and is also looking at those things. So we need to have those things in place as well. We have a number of community police officers. I believe we need more. We need more community police officers, and not just to fight crime. When you have police officers out in the community, it reduces the stigma of that police officers are all bad. You become know the police officers, they're also out there becoming to know you guys and are aware and in their surroundings and in their neighborhood. And I think that's a deterrent to crime too. But we want our police officers out there to be safe. We want them out there protective of our neighborhoods. Community police officers in the community interacting is a win-win. It reduces that stigma of people thinking that police officers are bad or are always out there to arrest you, but it also has continuous eyes and ears on the ground, which is also a crime deterrent. Thank you.
I do agree that there needs to be an increase with police and fire, but we have to be strategic in the way we do it. I think there should be a certain percentage of the police and fire that actually live in the city, that are vested in the city. I think that will make a difference. I think that we need to look at building rapport with our police officers or continuing to build rapport with the police officers and the people within the city. Programs such as sending youth away with police to summer camp so they can work on activities to increase and build rapport. Fishing, boating, basketball, those types of things. Continuing to engage with the community, events, basketball games, barbecues, just so we get to know our community servants better. And so I think being strategic in the way we hire will be very helpful.
Thank you. Patricia, we'll start with you. We've talked a number about policy questions. This next question is really about, for all of you, about your leadership style. So how do you stay confident in your own decisions when at times you are going to be questioned or you have to make a difficult decision that some citizens may not like? So really about your leadership style, how do you stay confident going forward?
I tell the truth. I always tell people, I'm not smart enough to lie. I'm not, because when you lie, you have to continue to perpetuate that lie. If somebody asks you a question, you have to do a little nuance on that lie. I can't keep that stuff straight. I'm a mom, I work, I take care of my parents. I have too much stuff rambling around up here to try to continue to support a lie. So I'm always honest. Sometimes I'm probably too honest, I'm very direct. But my philosophy is I'd rather be honest, tell you how I feel, tell you, and then explain my position, and then move on. You'll always know where I stand. You'll always know that what I'm telling you is the best, my position using the best information I have at the time. I'm always prepared. I'm always prepared when I come to council. I read everything, I ask questions. I would say, without pointing out who our current president on council is, I probably ask a little bit too many questions because I get the eye every once in a while from somebody. I do. But you know, it's important to me. I always tell people that I always say I'm asking the questions that I think that the everyday citizen asks. I ask the questions that the person who, when I'm shopping in Myers, comes up to me and says, what about this? So I always ask that question. I'm always prepared to ask questions regarding whether it's an ordinance or a budgetary thing. You have to be prepared. You have to know what you're talking about, but you also have to be able to say when you're wrong. If you're changing your decision, you have to be able to justify that, and you have to be able to go to that person and say, I can't support you even though I said I was, and this is why. You have to maintain that. Once you're caught in a lie or you lose your integrity, it's very hard to get it back, and you can't be an effective public servant that way.
Yes, please, guys.
Well, I would describe my leadership style as a servant leader. So I like to lead by example, and I would not ask anyone to do something that I wouldn't do. I'm a collaborative person, and I believe that working together and building on the ideas that we have, the ideas of each other, that we can get much further. I also have business experience, balancing budgets, marketing. So I have the business side of it. I have that experience. I have experience in public service, working with people. And so I lead by example, but I also use a collaborative approach because I don't know everything. So working together, leading by example, asking people to do only things that I would do to benefit the good of the whole. That's my goal.
My leadership skill, I believe, is one that is seeking information. Whether it is a matter of asking questions at the dais, whether it's a matter of doing research, whether it's a matter of talking to people in the community, I am not afraid to go out there and seek out that information. I think once I have made a decision on a topic, it's important for me to listen still to the other side. If I am not constantly learning, I am no good to anyone. You have to be willing to expand on your knowledge and expand on your views, because you're representing the whole. You are not just representing yourself. I know this might seem trifle, but I think of the time that we had a group of young people that came before the council when we were spending money for the Parks Millage. And these young people stood before us and they held up their skateboards and talked about how important a skateboard park would be in the city of Lansing. They said, you might have grown up playing baseball and you might have grown up playing basketball, but a skateboard park is important to us. You weren't going to see me out there on a skateboard. I wasn't going to be out there enjoying that. Let's be perfectly honest. But it was listening to what those children needed. Their voice counted. They talked a story that allowed me to grow and understand their perspective. So when it came time to vote for that, it was voting for something that was better for the entire community, because I allowed myself to listen to someone else.
Thank you. Well, we're going to move on, and thank you for your questions or responses to the questions. We're going to move into the closing. You'll each have 2 minutes. Patricia, we'll start with you, and we'll go to Carol, and then we'll end with you, Ms. Jackson.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to tell you just a little bit about me. I'm a strong advocate for the city of Lansing. This is my home. Again, my family's here. My parents live 5 minutes away from me. I live 5 minutes away from the home I grew up in. I went to Lansing schools, came back, and now I live here. And I want to continue to serve you as city council at large. I think what you get from me is honesty, integrity. I'm always prepared. But I am a person that if I am wrong, I'm not afraid to say I'm wrong. I try to listen as best I can to criticism. Sometimes that's hard, but I think I'm human. But at the end of the day, the priorities for me are always the financial health of the city of Lansing, because everything revolves around the financial health of the city of Lansing. If you're not healthy financially in the city, you can't provide services to your residents. You can't take care of your neighborhoods. You can't make sure your city streets are swept, which, by the way, they're not, because mine are flooding right now as we speak, and we need to have them swept more, but you can't make sure that's happening. And so for me, my next term, if I am elected, is going to be focused on, looking at our city, restructuring what we're doing, trying to find waste, trying to address legacy costs, trying to provide those basic city services. And so I ask that you give me 4 more years to be your city council person at large. I will add, though, as you look at our council right now, our council is the most diverse council that we've ever had. It's from racial makeup to gender to socioeconomic background. And I think what that does is that brings in variety of thought, variety of ideas. You see us on council and you think, we're all lockstep, but what you don't see behind is the talking and the discussion that happens before we come out. Thank you.
We'll go to Carol next. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening and listening to us and giving us your questions. One of the quotes that was used for me some time ago was, "No politician in Lansing is better at listening to its constituents than Carol Wood." And that was a quote in the Lansing State Journal. I felt very honored when that quote came out because I do listen to you. I am accessible to you. My home phone number is on my business cards. It's on my literature. So that if you can't reach me in the office, you can reach me at home. One of the things that I give you is the ability to be there, to listen, to grow, and to serve you in this community. Most important endorsement, and I could talk to you about my labor endorsements, my chamber endorsement, is your endorsement. You endorsed me during the primary with being the top vote getter and winning every precinct in the city of Lansing. I appreciate that. I don't take that lightly. I know that your confidence in me and what I'm able to deliver is because you have faith in the job I'm doing. So I want to thank you for that, and hopefully you will consider me for another 4 years. Thank you very much.
Again, my name is Giannis Jackson Long. I was raised here in Lansing and attended J.W. Sexton High School. I believe my background and experience will provide a fresh perspective for Lansing, and it will help us deal with the opportunities and the challenges that we are facing. I'd like to help ignite change in the city. I've been in the city, I've entrenched myself in the city, and I've invested a lot in the city. It's important to me that we continue to thrive, and I want to be a voice for the entire city to address those groups that have been marginalized because of color, because of their background, because of religion, because of their economic status. I want to be a voice for all people, not just working people, but for all people. That's my goal, to help ignite change. So I want to meet people where they are. I want to help bridge the gaps that we have here and make sure that people have a voice, to make sure they are part of the political process. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I'm looking to work with people together so we can work towards real, sustainable change in this city. So we can continue to evolve and be the change that we seek. I want to help people get engaged and get off of the sidelines and become part of the solution, to feel like they are part of the solution and that they do have power, that they can take their power back and use their voice. I want to help do that. I would like to help facilitate that process. And I do hope that you will consider me on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so thank you. We're going to move to the next panel, but please join me in thanking our candidates for giving their time. Thank you for your attention. We'll transition and we'll be right back.
If I can have your attention for just a minute, we're going to have the council members, First Ward come up, and candidates. I want to explain a little bit here. We do have Adam Hussein here from 3rd Ward. The reason we've asked him is because, one, nobody is running against him, and even though we can't vote for him, he does make decisions on city council. So I thought it would be, and so did the board, thought it would be good for him to come so that we could hear his position on issues, because he votes. So that's why he's here. If there's a problem with it, please let me know. Thank you.
We'll get started here. I want to start off with thanking our candidates again for being here this evening to answer questions, and thank you for being out in the audience and asking the question. So we'll start with a 2-minute opening, and we'll start with Mr. Betts first.
Thank you very much. Is this?
No.
All right. There we go. Is it working now? Oh, magic. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming out to this event. Thank you to E&O for hosting this event. I am so excited to be here to talk about the issues that we in Lansing really care about. I've been knocking doors on the east side for about 8 months now, and there have been 2 main themes that I've found coming out of my conversations. The first is that we are giving hundreds of millions of dollars away in tax breaks to big developers with nothing in return. That's been an issue that everybody's been talking about because it stands in the way of our streets being repaired, of our sidewalks being done, of youth programs happening in our city. And I think that that is something that I'm going to be fighting. I'm going to make sure that we get things in return as a community for all of these big developments going up. And second, I have a story. I was speaking to a woman on Clemens Street, South Clemens Street, a couple weeks ago, and she said, "Thank goodness it's election year, because Jody Washington came to my door and actually fixed a problem for me." And, you know, to me, I want to be out there all the time. I'm going to be knocking doors from the day that I get elected until the day I leave office, because I want to speak to the people and hear what the people have to say. I am going to hire interns to knock those doors, because I think that the most important thing in this city are the people here. And I feel that this office should be powered by you, the people. And that's the reason I'm here, because it is time for us to stand up and fight for a bold vision for changing this city and moving it into the future. Thank you.
First and foremost, thank you so much for entertaining the idea of me being here. I think, invited. I'm a teacher, so I apologize for how loud I am. I naturally speak. So is this about right, folks? Okay, there we go. So I was invited maybe a few weeks back, and I truly appreciated the opportunity. It is not just that you need to hear from me, I need to hear from you. And so with regards to your line of questioning, as an example, I've learned quite a bit about what is important to Eastsiders here tonight, so I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. In terms of myself, I am a lifelong Lansing resident, specifically a lifelong Southwest Lansing resident. I've actually lived southwest of the Pleasant Grove and Holmes intersection my entire life. I am a proud graduate of Lansing schools. I was the child of a single mother. My community was so incredibly important to me as I grew up, in terms of the housing that I was afforded, the education that I was afforded, entry-level jobs that I was afforded to gain job knowledge and skills and things of that nature, the businesses that I was able to frequent. I learned pretty early on that I wanted to give back to my community that had given so much to me. And so I studied at LCC, Michigan State University in Central Michigan, where I studied to become a public educator. I worked very hard to try to gain employment with the Lansing School District. At that time, we were losing a number of students as opposed to gaining, and we were laying off teachers. So I took a position in Williamston, Waverly Call, maybe 2 weeks after I'd taken that position, and I went running. I wanted to teach kids with the Lansing address. So I've actually been at Waverly Middle School for the last 10 years. When we talk about civic engagement, really cut my teeth with Neighborhood Watch. In my early 20s, I became the Neighborhood Watch coordinator in my neighborhood. I then joined my neighborhood association. I've been the vice president and president for the last 12 years. I advocated for the broader community as part of the park board from 2010 to 2015, and it was at that time, as I worked with pretty much every single department in the city of Lansing to try to move issues that were important to Southwest Lansing, that I realized we really needed a fierce advocate on the southwest end of the city. So I decided to run for ward representative in 2015. I was successful. I've worked incredibly hard to be that advocate for Southwest Lansing that I believe Southwest Lansing has long needed. And I am running unopposed. I do not believe, and I'll stop, I promise, I do not believe that is because we have arrived in Southwest Lansing, but I do believe people know that we are working incredibly hard to that end. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Jody Washington. I have been serving the First Ward for the past 8 years. The first time I ran on a record. I didn't have to promise what I was going to do. I ran on a record then, and I'm running on a record now. I had over 25 years of community service right here in Lansing before I ever ran for city council. I too cut my teeth in the neighborhood. I joined the board of my neighborhood organization. I was on the board of the HUD housing complex that I lived in, and I actually became president of that complex. We had the opportunity after the mortgage was paid off to turn it into condos. I voted and led the charge in keeping it to be incredibly affordable housing. It's a co-op to this day. I have served as a fire commissioner. I served as the president of the East Village Neighborhood Organization. I have served several years on the Eastside Neighborhood Organization. I have served and do today on the Tri-County Regional Aging. I serve on the executive board for Michigan Works, the Capital Area Michigan Works. I serve on the administrative board for Capital Area Michigan Works. I could go on and on. But at the end of the day, I serve. It's what I do. Do I make everybody happy? Of course not. Nobody is going to make everybody happy. But I have fought my whole life. I raised my kids in very impoverished conditions. I'm that single mom, and I have fought. And I continue to fight. I'm not always eloquent. Sometimes my fighting gets me in trouble. But I'm honest. I serve with integrity. I'm a little gritty, but that's Lansing, and that's who we are. Thank you.
Okay, so Adam, we'll start with you. What do you believe to be the most important issue facing our city right now?
Hello? Coming in and out. I think it's down. Maybe we have. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I think our mics are dying just a little bit. So many issues. It's tough to be part of the second panel because so many great things have been said. All absolutely true. When we look at the issues facing our city, we need to absolutely prioritize economic development, growth, job creation, job promotion. The diversification of our economy is absolutely imperative if we're going to be able to withstand the next economic downturn. We know that we need to continue to prioritize safe, affordable, clean, appropriate housing. We know that we need to continue to look at our corridors that really connect our front door communities, look at our districts and nodes, make sure that we're reactivating what really are critical nodes and corridors that are truly connecting our front door communities. Obviously, we need to prioritize police, we need to prioritize fire. The reality, however, is that those will all become more difficult if we do not absolutely get serious about attacking our pension and retiree health care costs. We have a number right now that is absolutely crippling our general fund at over $700 million. In 2006, some of this data was shared earlier, but in 2006, about 13.5% of all city revenues were being spent on trying to fund some of this legacy debt. Today, that number is at 23%. One economic downturn, that number will be over $8 billion. That makes it more difficult for us, obviously, to prioritize anything. Now, it needs to absolutely be recognized that our city workers and our retirees have conceded over the past several years and have actually saved us over $200 million in future costs. Promises made have to be promises kept. We know that a number of great recommendations have come forth from the financial health team that can be in 2012, and we have picked at a lot of the low-hanging fruit. We need to do more. The Chief Strategy Officer obviously was acknowledged earlier in the night. The Chief Strategy Officer, it is our hope that they look at our city's processes, our contracts, inefficiencies, efficiencies, redundancies, and make, and we're hoping, right, that we receive a number of recommendations that are practical and that we can implement to start to chip away at really what has become critical. If you have, and I'm going to be very honest with you, if you have a candidate that is not talking about that as being the number one priority, I'm going to ask you not to vote for them, and I'm going to be very, very honest with you, because the curtain has been pulled way back for us that are on city council and for many of us that have engaged pretty regularly, and that is, bottom line, the number one issue facing the city of Lansing today.
Jody, we'll go to you next.
Hello. Okay. Thank you. I too have to echo. Our number one issue is our OPEB and pension liability. We came through the Great Recession. It cost us dearly. We had to cut back on services to the absolute bare bones, and we have not made a comeback today. One blink in this economy, we are $1 billion in debt, and we know we are headed toward another recession. We're in big trouble. There is a reason that the financial health team supports us. The incumbents are supported by union and business because everybody recognizes how serious this issue is, and they want experience at the table. That's the bottom line. If we don't get this taken care of, nothing else matters. Absolutely nothing else matters. We know infrastructure is a problem. but that's coming from state revenue sharing. We know that we have a mental health issue that's critical. I have spoken with the mayor, and we will be forming a mental health task force, and maybe some of you social workers out there can be a part of that. We can no longer deal with our issues in silos. We have to build partnerships. We have to go forward. We don't get property taxes for government buildings, nonprofit buildings, educational buildings, and we're the hub of state government. So you can imagine how much property we are not getting any taxes for. So as we move forward, we have to take this seriously. We have to take the FHT recommendations seriously. We cannot do it by constant cuts. We have nowhere else to cut. We have to start diversifying our economy. We have to start bringing more people to live into the city. And I just can't say it strongly enough. This is the issue.
Brandon?
Thank you for asking about our biggest issue facing Lansing. As an economist, I think about the economy a lot, and I've been doing public policy for a very long time. I think it's right. OPEB debt is a very big problem in Lansing. It comes out to be, what did you say, 28%, 30% of our, yeah, around there. I've been dealing with pension debt problems and researching those in my work for years and years and years. I do public policy work. When we hired that CSO, I will tell you exactly what they're going to tell us to do. Cut fire, cut police, cut our public services, cut everything that we need in the city, and I don't think that's the answer. I think that the answer is to get revenue from somewhere. Where is that? The developers that we have been giving tax breaks for years and years and years, because they have the money to help us fix our problems in this city. They have the money to make sure that we can pay those debts. And I think that diversifying our economy is so important. How do we do that? The answer is focusing on entrepreneurship and small businesses in our city, because they have a stake in our community. They believe in our community, they live in our community, they want to hire locally, they want to pay their taxes, and they honestly want to take care of our city. They love our parks, they want our roads to be repaired. Why aren't we focusing on small businesses? That is the question. And the answer is truly taking an economic perspective on this is going to be so useful, because the recession is coming, Adam, you're right. I have been studying recessions for my entire adult life, and they are scary, and they were especially scary last time in Lansing. People were unemployed, people lost their houses. We need to come together and create a community that stands for all of us, that works for all of us, because it is time that we all share that burden and we all work together to make sure that our neighbors are safe, they're fed, they're taken care of, that they have adequate health care, that they're paid living wages, and that they have a job that provides for their family. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. All right, Jody, we'll go to you next, and the question is on the roads. So what can we do, what can be done or has been done on our road situation in the city?
Okay, thank you for that question. The reality is we have over 400 miles of roads in the city of Lansing, and it's growing. We have many more miles of sidewalks, and it's growing. At the end of the day, we only have $9.2 million of city funds to put into the roads. We do not get our road money from the city. This is done from revenue sharing from the state. And you may wonder why you can go into Illinois or Indiana or Wisconsin and see that their roads are better than ours, but their states give more revenue sharing. We have to continue to petition our state representatives, our governor, our senators to give more money, particularly in Lansing, where we are providing services for them by housing their governmental buildings, by housing the capital in this city. We cannot do it alone. There is nothing Lansing can do to put more money into our roads. I was able to get the mayor to give up another $300,000 for sidewalk repair. For that, I was very grateful. I will continue to do that. grants out there, there is something, but at the end of the day, we do depend on revenue sharing, and we have to demand more. I don't care if it's from semi-paying more taxes or how the governor plans to do that, but we need the money from the state.
First, we have to acknowledge that there is this huge issue. The scope of it is, so first of all, yes, we do have 444 miles of road that we have to take care of, 70% of which are in deplorable condition, and that actually needs to be reconstructed. We also have almost 600 miles of sidewalk, and then we also have sub-construction. So we actually have, as an example, sanitary sewers underneath the ground. We have a lot of infrastructure, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars infrastructure needs, and I believe sidewalks and roads alone account for about $325 million. If we were doing the situation justice, we'd be funding this at about $25 million per year. As is, we are funding it at under 10. And the issue is partly a state revenue sharing issue. You talk about the Northwest Territory, better known as the Great Lakes region. Our state revenue share is at less than any other state government in terms of state government to municipalities. So that is a problem. We need to continue to work with our legislators for a long-term common sense fix. The other piece is that we need to recognize what we have done right and continue to do that. We have right now a 1 mil dedicated. So we actually have a 4 mil public safety and roads millage in the city of Lansing, and 1 mil of that has been dedicated to roads. That's roughly about $2.1 million. One of the things when I first came on the council that we were not doing is we were not using all of that money for road projects. Today we are using 100% of that money for road projects. When you look at sidewalks, when I came on the council, we were funding sidewalk repair and replacement at about $140,000. We have more than doubled that. We are now at $300,000 a year, and we are also working to prioritize one-time money to actually spend on our roads and our sidewalks and things of that nature. We need to, as both these candidates have said, we need to continue to diversify our economy, make sure that the city of Lansing is the best place to live, to work, to start a business, to grow a business. We have to enhance our tax base. We cannot continue to say that individual or that entity or they need to fix our problem. We need to be a part of the solution as well. So we need to do that. And when we build back our budget, I don't know if people know this, but from 2006 to 2016, we cut about $60 million from our general fund budget. We obviously have seen that increase. And so as we build back, Loretta will often tell you, we need to make sure that we're prioritizing the things that truly matter to the residents and to the business owners in Lansing. And that is our roads, that is obviously our unfunded legacy debt, that's our parks, our police, our fire. It is time to absolutely prioritize our needs and not necessarily our wants, and infrastructure certainly is part of that.
Roads. The problem that 80% of Lansing residents have. You knock on somebody's door and you ask them what their biggest problem is. I'll tell you what 80% of people say: roads. There is an answer. It's lobbying our state government, taking all of our lobbying power in the city, the Chamber of Commerce, the League of Cities, the power of the mayor, and going to the legislature and saying, we need some of the statutory revenue sharing money back. I've been working with the state government at my job for a while. I do this for a living. It's all about going and saying, this is the capital city. You need to fund our roads. It is so important. We don't have the money. As Adam said, we need to be spending $25 million a year, and that's only to maintain them, and we're spending less than 10. And we cannot afford to put more money into our roads ourselves. We need to get the state involved. I also think that we need to refocus which roads we're fixing. If you go to Wood Street, that street has been repaired, I believe, 2 times in the 2.5 years that I've lived here. I went across 127 and was in a neighborhood over there where they said this is the first year in 5 years that their roads have not been completely redone. Where you go south of Kalamazoo Street right now, and their roads have not been fixed in 5 to 10 years. That is a problem. First, reprioritization. And second, focusing on that state government piece and getting some of that statutory revenue sharing that the state owes us. Over the last 15 years, they've withheld $81 billion from states, or from municipalities and counties in statutory revenue sharing money. And enough is enough. We need to fund our cities. The cities are the backbone of this state.
Thank you, Brandon. Adam, we'll go to you first. And there's been a number of questions from the audience on affordable housing and rental rates. So I'll bridge those two together and ask the candidates to respond. So what can we do to make sure we have affordable housing stock here in the city and keeping rental rates appropriately, at appropriate levels?
This may not be incredibly popular, but I'm going to say that we need to first recognize that when we talk about regionalization, we need to be talking about housing as well. We know beyond any measure of doubt that over the next 20 years, we need about 20,000 additional units of affordable housing, but that needs to be a regional conversation. We only have so much land in the city of Lansing. We are 36 square miles soaking wet. We don't have a lot of contiguous land left to develop. But with that being said, during my time on council, we have approved a number of SLUs, a number of rezones, economic incentives to increase the amount of affordable housing in the city of Lansing. So we certainly are making some headway, but again, we need help from our regional partners. We talk often about regionalization with job training, with advocating for finite state and federal resources but for some reason, we never had this conversation about regional, or at least having a regional discussion about housing. We need to ensure that it's a regional conversation moving forward.
Brandon, we'll go to you next.
Thank you for asking about affordable housing in Lansing. This is a very important question. Lansing is one of the most affordable cities in the country, but our property values and the amount that we're paying in rent has been increasing and increasing and increasing over the years. I have personally, since I've moved here, experienced 20% increase in my rent for a comparable house, and that's 3 years. My answer is twofold. First, developers. Most cities in this country require, as part of a development agreement, that every single development that is built has a certain percentage of their buildings and units be affordable. It's a simple answer. When Gillespie builds a new building, say 30% of your building should be developed or should be affordable. And it's a good thing because we want mixed use housing. We want low income, we want middle income, and we want upper income people living in our city, right? I think that we can all agree on that. Two, I think that we need to hold our landlords accountable. One of the big problems in this city is that our housing stock is falling apart and our renters don't know what to do to help that, to fix that problem. 58% of our housing stock are rentals. So what do we do to fix that problem? Well, if a landlord from out of state is unwilling to fix the house, and tenants should be able to call the inspector, have that inspector come and look at the home and say, this is not up to code. You can put your rent in escrow until this apartment, this house is fixed. Because right now, a majority of our landlords live outside of this city, and they don't have a stake in our city. They don't care what our housing stock is, but our renters care what this housing stock is, and our homeowners care about what our housing stock is. So we should be holding those out-of-state landlords accountable to this city to make sure that our housing is adequate, safe, and quality living.
Thank you, Brandon. Jody?
Thank you. This is a huge issue. First, I want to acknowledge that we do have a housing ombudsman, Joe McDonald, who works with Dr. Joe Jackson Johnson in the Human Relations Department. If anybody is having problems with their landlord, their renters, they desperately need a place to live, they need to contact that department. We give them 1.25% of our general fund every year, and that is what they are there for. So if anybody's having a problem like that, please make sure to call her. We also have Mark Lawrence, who is the citizen advocate in the mayor's office, and if you need help in anything like that, please get a hold of him. My concern is we have a lot of affordable housing in Lansing, and we're building more. We just built the Walnut on the School for the Blind. We are going to redevelop the Abigail into low-income housing. We are building units by the Hall of Justice. The Allen Neighborhood Center is going to be putting up 40-some units. We have affordable housing, a ton on the southwest side of Lansing and much on the northern and western part of the city. My concern is not building more affordable housing. My concern is what we have is deplorable. When we have people dying in our Lansing housing projects, we got a problem. When we walk through them, and I do walk through the multi-units, the multi-housing units, that I'm looking at feces in the hallway, we got a problem. The windows are broken, we got a problem. And then quickly, they get a letter and they're told to fix it, and they do the absolute minimum and move on. One of my constituents was told when she complained of rain hitting her in the bed that she should wear a raincoat to bed. This is not acceptable. I want safe housing. I want affordable housing, but I want it safe. The answer is right now we must bring all of our housing up to code. These conditions are not acceptable. I was doing a cleanup and one man said, please help us. Please help us. It breaks my heart. So to me, the biggest issue right now is safety. It's appropriate housing. We need to hold these slumlords accountable. And if their house gets red tagged and the people have to go somewhere else, that landlord needs to be held responsible to pay for their rent for a period of time. This is not fair to the tenants. Thank you.
Brandon, we'll start with you, and this question has to do with the budget and essential city services. So essentially, do you have any revenue ideas generating additional revenue, or are there cost-cutting measures that you would recommend or like to describe for us?
That's a great question, and thank you for asking, whoever in the crowd asked that question. I think that there are revenue options. I've already talked about them a lot here because I think that revenue is one of the biggest things that we need in the city, and that is making sure that developers pay their property taxes. Very clear, very simple, hundreds of millions of dollars we're talking about on the table here. The people of Lansing cannot afford to pay more in property taxes. We're almost at our millage cap. And literally every single one of us in this room has probably sat down and thought, maybe I need to move out of this city because I am paying so much in property taxes. I hear it at every single door I knock. I'm paying so much in property taxes, and where is it going? Where are our property taxes going? Well, I'll tell you, we're paying a bunch of millages, and they're going to the county, they're going to something in Mason, they're going to a special project here and there, and it's not coming back to us. We're not seeing where that money is going. That is a huge problem, especially for people in a city, because we should see where our money is going. Are there costs that can be cut? I'm sure. I would need to look at the budget and dig into it a little bit more. I do think, though, that we shouldn't be cutting jobs. I don't think that we should be cutting essential services. I don't think that we should be cutting youth programs. I don't think that we should be cutting things that make our city great, our parks, for example. The old mayor tore through Ormond Park, and it tore apart a community because he thought that it would be better to have a road to a golf course than to have a park there that people lived in, experienced, and loved. We cannot take away those services and those parks and those places that we love just to get a couple more dimes out. The answer is that we need to ask our developers to pay their fair share in taxes so that we, the people, can live in a city and be proud that we're the capital city in this wonderful state. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam, we'll go to you next.
I want to first recognize the fact that our budget, as is, went through it, obviously 4 different times now. There are not copious amounts of waste. There really aren't. When we were kind of hacking away from 2006 to 2016, we did start to cut critical, in my opinion, critical services. And as we have begun to build back, we are obviously trying to build back with critical services, but there aren't copious amounts of waste. There were some things that were mentioned earlier that we are already working on. We know that at one point there was over $7 million in delinquent taxes out there. So we, obviously funded it I should say funded 4 changes within the Treasury Department so that we could actually start to go after those delinquent taxes. We know that we are right now taking a look at some of our contracts and trying to determine whether or not these are, did we have true value added with these contracts? I think of United as an example, that we contract with United to cut every parcel of land in the city of Lansing. And the question is, are we truly saving money? So we need to, kind of do a top-down when we look at our contracts and gauge the merit of and whether or not we're really saving dollars. We need to look at revenue generating services. I think it was mentioned earlier that there have been conversations in earnest, and there have been, about the city's waste management. I think we certainly could look at that and a number of other things pertaining to some of the services that we could provide that maybe we have provided in the past but are not providing now to generate revenue. I think we need to, and again, this might not be popular, but we need to take a serious look at the city's assets when we look at our inventory, particularly of our buildings. Most people don't know that the city of Lansing has hundreds of buildings. There are some buildings, whether they be the entire building or whether they be entire wings of buildings that we are heating, that we are cooling, that we are lighting, that we don't even use. So the question is, and when we talk about land for affordable housing and things of that nature, we certainly could be looking at some of these assets that we have that we are not utilizing, discussing the potential of offloading those. So there's a number of things we can do. Obviously, we have supported this position as Chief Strategy Officer, and it is our absolute expectation that they bring forth additional ideas beyond what we have mentioned here today as candidates. And again, and I think this has been said a number of times, we don't have all the answers. We are representatives. Our job is to engage you all at a high level. Our job is to educate ourselves, to engage other officials at the state level, at the federal level. It's to be students of opportunities that are out there that we might be able to leverage. And I can promise you, we are working incredibly hard, sometimes behind the curtain, sometimes out in front of the curtain, to tackle these very serious issues. Because obviously, when we look at our city's budget, all the great things that we've discussed tonight hinge on that budget. And so the attraction of residents, the retention of residents, the creation of jobs, the enhancement of our tax base, all of that is in addition to. But we are working hard. We'll continue to do that.
Thank you. I don't have a lot to add because most of what I was going to say has been said. Some of you participated in the budget participatory project, so you do understand we don't have a whole lot of discretionary money. Most of our money is spoken for at the very beginning of the year, and we are mandated to put that money in those places. So we don't have a lot of money to move into other areas. And as a city council, I think folks need to understand that, yes, we approve the budget, but we don't make that budget. The mayor makes the budget. We have 3 separate parts of our government. We have the executive branch, which is the mayor and all of his staff. We have the legislative branch, which is us. And we do resolutions, we do ordinances, and we oversee the budget. We approve the budget or we make tweaks to the budget. And then, of course, we have the judicial branch, which is the judges and the courts. So we don't control the entire city. And we need to make that clear. I think some people are mistaken in what we actually have the ability to do. But what I would say is it was incredibly important to me, and I led the charge on getting the strategy officer because I felt it was imperative that we have someone go deep into our departments and look at every vendor contract, every employee contract, and yes, our assets. We have so many assets that we could sell and get the money for those assets. We have to look at whether, we've had the discussion of selling the Board of Water and Light. I'm certainly not in favor of that, but we have had that discussion. We have I would like to see an employee suggestion award program because our employees do have a lot of good ideas on how to get revenue. And at the end of the day, we have to continue to petition the state. We have to look and see where our waste is. We would entertain ideas from anybody on revenue, bringing up revenue, but again, it will have to go through the mayor. He is responsible for all real estate and all initiatives. We are reactionary. We approve or don't approve what is brought to us. We don't have the power to do those things ourselves. So like it or not, that's the reality. of what City Council does. And we are working incredibly hard, every single one of us. At that dais, you see us bicker, you see us go back and forth, because we are all working hard and we are all diligently trying to figure this out. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Brandy, we'll go to you next. So we've had a number of policy discussions. So this question is really around, what are you passionate about for our city, and what do you love most about our city? So give us a little bit of that.
There are two things that I find very unique in Lansing, and the two reasons why I live here out of everything else. First, the people are so fantastic. There's a Midwest attitude that is absolutely a thing, and I love being a part of that community. Everybody's nice. We can sit at a table and discuss politics. And I mean, Michigan is obviously full of politics, right? So that's great. I get to talk politics all day. I love that. On top of that, though, the people here are willing to fight. They're willing to stand up, and they're willing to have their voices heard. And that is so very important, that we continue to fight for the things that we think are right and the things that we think are just. I also love the trees in this city. One of my favorite things, when I moved here, I lived on Leslie Street. And looking down Leslie, there's just an overhang of trees, and it is the most beautiful thing on the planet Earth. Lansing in the 1800s was known as the city in the forest because of how many trees we had here. I want to bring that back. I want to plant more trees in our parks. I want to bring more trees, and I want to make sure that people feel like they are members of this community. I want to meet all of you. I want to have these conversations. I want to talk to people on the street, and I do, because the people here are amazing. So thank you for asking that question.
Adam, we'll go to you next. What do you love about the city, and what are you passionate
It's cliche at this point, but it is certainly our people. Again, I've lived in the city for 38 years. Absolutely had the opportunity to move out of the city if I so choose, or chose. But there's no way, right? And to be quite frank, there's no way I'm ever moving out of Southwest Lansing, to be candid. I love our people. I'm immersed in our city's people each and every day. I work with 8th grade students for a living. I'm hurrying. I got daggers in people's eyes because I'm talking too long. I know you guys want to hear from your candidates that you actually get to choose from, but I understand. But I do want to say this. Each and every day, I work to scaffold and support the amazing people that we have in the city of Lansing. Again, 158 graders every single day from about 7 in the morning to about 3:30. I take this job very seriously outside of just the policy. I am deeply engaged with our neighborhood groups every single night of the week. I'm at Colonial Village, I'm at Luton Ridge, I'm at April Woods, I'm at Leno, we've started a number of associations, neighborhood associations, business groups, because we understand the power is our people, and so we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to bring our people together, to scaffold our people, to make sure we're leveraging respective individuals and groups and things of that nature to continue to move our community forward, so that we can all ascend the socioeconomic ladders, and we can see our kids ascend the socioeconomic ladder. So it is our people, deeply passionate about our people, and I'm deeply passionate about supporting our people.
Thank you. I'm passionate about Lansing because I don't know anything else. My mother raised all her children here in Lansing. I've raised my children here in Lansing, and my children are raising their children here in Lansing. I have traveled the world. I have been many places, but there's nowhere I'm going to live other than Lansing. We're not a big city. We're a mid-sized city. But in our mid-sized city, we have millennials, we have elderly, we have children in our school district. We have over 70 countries represented, and we speak over 56 languages in our school district. That's not bad for a city our size. I just love our city. I love the people. I love the history. I love that my family is here. This city is personal to me. Everybody I love practically lives in Lansing. So I will continue to fight for us. I've been here through Lansing's really good times, and I have been here through Lansing's really seedy bad times. And trust me, there have been plenty. There's a reason people want to live here. There's a reason young people are moving to the east side. It's because people have worked hard to make this a really cool place to live. I'm proud to have been a part of it. I will continue to be a part of it. And we will always, I think any one of us up here will always have people considered in the middle of whatever we do.
Thank you, Jody. Brandon, we'll go to you. So this is the question on philosophical leadership style. So as a city leader, you're going to have to bring in, build consensus, get feedback. So just talk about your leadership philosophy and how you're going to have and engage the citizens in the district.
Thank you for asking the question on leadership style. I think that is a really important question whenever we come to the table, whenever we're going to be working together. I have a very distinct philosophy in this. The first is that I am rooted in the people. The people of my ward are going to come to me and they're going to expect me to do the things that are going to make their lives better. But then the question is, what do we do on council? There are 8 different personalities on council. There is a mayor who is also quite a personality. And I will tell you what, I have sat down with everybody at this point. And I think that the key to this city is building coalitions on different issues. We may not agree on affordable housing. We may not agree on clean energy. We may not agree on any number of things. But the truth is that what you need is a consensus of 5 people on council. And I think that we can push any progressive policy forward, as long as we make sure that we work those strategic relationships together and really push to move this city forward, because I believe that most people on council do care about people and care about what they have to say. And I think that I think that it's important to center those people in our work.
Thank you, Brandon. Adam, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, I'll first say that, I'm never the smartest person in the room. I'm never the most talented person in the room. But what I am is sincere in the work that I do. I'm incredibly sincere in the work that I do. I engage at a high rate. I understand the incredible talent that we have within our community. And I work very hard to bridge gaps between individuals and groups within our community. I work very, very hard to advocate for the people, respectfully, for the people collectively in our community. I am a student of the issues. I am not only prepared, ladies and gentlemen, but I am present. If you check my attendance, I think I'm only second to Councilwoman Wood because she never misses anything, let me tell you. But I am present and prepared at all times. So again, I hope people view me as sincere in my work, an engager, a consensus builder, and somebody that is truly a student of the issues and truly wants to move this great community forward.
Thank you, Adam. Jody?
Thank you. Leadership style. First of all, for me, my service on council or anywhere has never been about me. I don't need to make a name for myself. I'm happy with what I am, and I don't have a personal agenda to bring forward. Never have. And to me, one of the biggest things was when I ran for council, there was a vacancy, and I think 8 of us ran. But when I came in, particularly the east side was very fractured. We had a lot of warring turf wars, dare I say, different groups that weren't getting along with other groups. And what we were able to do, and I'll just give an example, is I began a monthly meeting, and to this day it continues to go on. This is the president of the Eastside Neighborhood Organization, the director of the Allen Neighborhood Center, our county commissioners that represent us, our state representative, and myself. And we get together every month and we talk about issues. And we have been able to tackle things without duplicity. When Mayor Shore was here, it was our state rep, he came to the meetings and we were able to deal with a number of issues from the neighborhood level all the way up to the state level. I have been very successful in building bridges between the labor community and the business community. And I have taken some really hard knocks over that, but they will both tell you that I was instrumental in building that bridge. So much so that the plumbers and pipe fitters now belong to the Chamber of Commerce. That's like amazing. I will say Councilwoman Wood was also a part of that, and that is why we have the endorsement of the unions and the Lansing Regional Chamber. They are grateful for it. So for me, it's more about partnerships. It's nothing that's out in front of everything. It's nothing that I brag about on a daily basis, but that is my strength behind closed doors. I have worked diligently with Dr. Stan Parker and the neighborhood in Potter Walsh to make sure that we have the community policing officer on board now, and we are fighting for the money that was removed from their community center. I have worked diligently with the mayor, the chief of police, the neighborhood groups, and the Fab Acres to make that a much safer neighborhood. I can't do it all on my own. So my leadership style is to reach out and get partnerships, because I'm not a superstar. But I do know how to make that phone call, and I do know how to get people to sit down at the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. All right, so we're going to move into our closing statements. You'll each have 2 minutes, and we'll start with Brandon.
Start with me 3 times?
Yeah.
I appreciate it. We stand at a critical time in Lansing's history today, a time when we need bold, visionary, and new ideas to push our city into the future. It's time for us to say no to tax breaks to big developers. It's time for us to stand with people. I'm an economist by trade. I've got a lot of policy ideas. We could talk about it all day. Obviously, I do this for a living. But the truth of the matter is that this is about us. This is about people. This is about us being engaged and active and ready to fight for change that desperately needs to happen in this city. And I am the person who's going to do that. I am the person who is fighting for that change now, because truly, if we are going to fix our roads, if we are going to re-engage in our communities and make sure that we have youth centers again, to make sure that our neighborhoods are taken care of, to make sure that the people are listened to, we need those bold ideas. To make sure that we can tackle that OPED debt. This has been a problem for a very long time, and now I'm here to say we can fix these problems. I believe that we can. I know that we can. But it's going to take all of us sitting together and talking about these things and really, truly working together to get it done. Because in the end, this is about you. This is about the people of Lansing who want to live a happy, safe, beautiful life in this wonderful city. So I ask you, please vote for me on November 5th. Thank you.
I'll be brief, I promise. I just want to say once again, thanks for having me. I truly do appreciate it. And again, I did learn a tremendous amount about what is important to you all. And probably not shockingly, it's the same things that are incredibly important to those that I directly represent in Southwest Lansing. So I promise that I will continue over the next 4 years to fight just as vigorously as I have the last 4 years to move some of these issues forward. When we talk about OPEB, when we talk about economic development, when we talk about public safety, when we talk about affordable housing, and not just affordable housing, but safe, clean, appropriate affordable housing. When we talk about the great equalizers, we're talking education, we're talking housing, we're talking. So the things that I can impact as a city council member, I promise I will continue to try to impact those things as best I possibly can. But I do want to recognize in closing that we have done a number of those things. When I ran 4 years ago as an example, we had some of these same conversations about our housing stock. And so instead of going to the mayor, instead of going to the directors, we went straight to a number of the council. We went straight to the front line workers. As an example, code compliance. And at that time, we had 8 code officers, we had 2.5 premise inspectors, and we had no commercial corridor inspector. And so we asked them, what do you need to ensure that you can get out, enforce code, hold these landlords' feet to the fire, make sure that you're complying with rental certificates and things things of that nature. They said, we need help. And so we fought, we advocated. We now have 10 code officers, we have 4 premises inspectors, and then we heard, Adam, it would be really helpful if we did not have to also enforce code up and down commercial corridors, because that takes us out of the neighborhoods, and that is really impacting our ability to make sure that we have safe, appropriate housing for all. So you know what we did? We amended the mayor's budget, and we created a position for a commercial corridor inspector, which is now filled. And that's just a microcosm of, ladies and gentlemen, we are pushing forward and pushing forward in a vigorous manner the issues that matter to you. Do we have ground to go? Absolutely. If we were there, trust me, I would not be running right now, because if you work this job the way I do, with so many of those members on city council, you have to make tremendous sacrifices. Your family has to make tremendous sacrifices. And again, I would not be running for re-election. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say to everybody, anybody that is running for office or has ever run for office deserves respect. It is not easy to put yourself out there. We have people in the audience that are running now. We have people that have run in the past, and you know how difficult it is. So thank you to everyone who is running for office, and thank you for everyone who has ever run for office, because it is not easy to put yourself out there, and certainly to listen to some of the things folks have to say. But having said that, being a lifelong resident of Lansing with over 25 years of community service led me to where I am today. I did not start out on city council. I started in the neighborhoods. I know this city well. I know the culture. I've lived here forever. During my terms, I have built the bridges. I've been a constant advocate for our marginalized communities in our most at-risk neighborhoods. We are expanding community policing, aggressively attacking predatory businesses and bad landlords. And in fact, a couple of us are working with the state representative and the senator right now to go after predatory businesses in our at-risk neighborhoods. We are improving our neighborhoods, our 100+ parks. We've been successful and demanding local labor for local developments. Our mayor yesterday signed the executive agreement for the Universal Development Agreement that will demand local labor be considered first. Together in the first ward, we've made great strides in placemaking, complete streets, urban farmers, and more. The first ward residents want streets and sidewalks fixed. We will continue to work on that. We've done so much in the first ward, but there's more to do. Tough decisions need to be made in the next couple of years, and we will make them together. Because I have been here more than a couple of years, I know this city, I know these neighborhoods, and I know the people. I love our city, and I will continue to fight to move her forward for all of us.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking all of our candidates. I'd like to invite Nancy up for any closing items. Nancy, thank you.
Let's thank Greg.
It's me. There we go. I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Special thank you to all the candidates, our helpers here, Brian, Greg, and the gentleman who helped get this fixed. Thank you very much. Everybody, come November, get out and vote.